As the year comes to a close, I just want to reflect on some of the changes I've seen in the fashion mainstream in 2023. Specifically the trends that have completely died or are at least on their way out. And all I really mean by this is they're not at the peak of their hype anymore. There are plenty of people that will still wear these brands or pieces. And let's not pretend like any of this actually matters. It's just a personal observation for myself, which I find really interesting to discuss. I'll always maintain that people should just wear what they want at the end of the day, no matter what's on trend. Trends are, after all, cyclical, so everything I talk about in today's video will be back in a few years' time. And even though these items aren't on trend at the moment, that doesn't mean they're not still stylish. So with all that in mind, let's just get into the video. Oversized tops. I feel like I've seen a major decline in people wearing oversized tops this year. And I'm not talking about those long line tops which were a big trend about 10 years ago. I mean really wide tops with drop shoulders and baggy sleeves. The brand that always comes to mind when I think about this style is Cole Buxton. That sort of minimal luxury sportswear brand with thick, heavyweight, oversized tops. I've been a huge fan of this style for many years and still am, to be honest. But it does seem like this trend definitely came to an end in 2023. I think there's a big movement back to more fitted tops, or at least tops that are cut a little bit closer to the body and not so long in length. Part of that is definitely because of how good a fitted top looks with baggy pants, which are a major trend at the moment. I also think, just like a lot of things in today's video, there's been an oversaturation of these minimal luxury sportswear brands. It sucks to say because you don't really want to discourage anyone from ever starting a clothing brand, but it does seem like every other startup brand over the past few years has adopted this style. And they don't really offer anything new to the scene, so it all looks a bit samey and it loses its appeal. We're also seeing this style of clothing in almost every high street store for very low prices these days, which also reduces the interest from a lot of fashion-forward people. It's funny because we like it when we find a low-key, affordable alternative, but when there's too many, it ruins it. The Clog Silhouette. One of the biggest falls of the year has to be the Clog Silhouette, most notably the Birkenstock Boston and the Crocs. These were absolutely massive in 2022 and even a few months into 2023. But I look around now and they seem to have dropped off the face of the earth. Hardly anyone seems to care about them anymore as a fashion piece. The most I see them as are people wearing them as slippers around the house. They just no longer seem to be incorporated into outfits where people are trying to dress up to look good. There are a number of reasons for the end of this trend, and it's definitely not a unique observation from myself. Many others have already discussed it in detail, so I'm not going to waste your time just regurgitating what they said. But one personal observation that I haven't really heard anyone else discuss is that I think the wackiness of the Clog Silhouette just wore off and became normalized. Let's be honest, although the clog is timeless and will forever be ingrained in fashion, it's not the most beautiful of shoes. The big bulbous round toe looks kind of goofy at first glance, but I kind of think that's why people started wearing it in the first place. The challenge of making something with such an old and traditional silhouette fit into more modern outfits is something that really appealed to people. Also, the fact that they looked kind of strange probably enticed people to wear them because it made them stand out. See big red boots for a perfect case study. However, once clogs became normalized due to the huge popularity and oversaturation of the market from countless copycats, the hype just disappeared. But I can guarantee once they've disappeared from the mainstream for a few years, someone will re-emerge wearing them, make them look really good, and the trend will start all over again. Vintage sportswear. The next one might just be relevant to the UK, but hear me out and let me know if you're seeing the same thing in your area. It seems like the interest in vintage sportswear has nosedived this year. And the reason I say this might just be relevant to the UK is because we are hyper-focused on football here, or soccer. Virtually everyone has a team or at least some interest in the sport, so they all have a jersey they want to wear and represent. I remember a year or two ago, everyone, including myself, was going absolutely mad for 90s sportswear pieces, especially football jerseys or sweaters. Anything by Nike, Adidas, Puma or Reebok that had some wavy design or a central chest logo was an absolute must-have. One of my biggest grails at the time was the green and black Liverpool sweater by Adidas. And to be fair, I'd still love to have one, and they are difficult to get hold of. But at the time, I was seeing them sell for crazy prices, £300 to £400 and above. And other items that looked similar, just generic 90s football tops, were going for £150 and up. As soon as they'd come up for sale, they'd be gone within hours. But now I'm seeing a lot of items like that just sitting and not selling. From a personal point of view, one of the reasons my hype died on these was the pricing. And you see it a lot with vintage pieces. The prices are just sky high and it puts a lot of people off. I love buying vintage, but part of the game for me is to find something that's rare or quality for a bargain price. When you're having to pay hundreds of pounds for a piece that you're probably going to be too scared to wear out in case you ruin it, that's just not for me. Another thing that might have harmed this trend is, as fun as those 90s patterns are, they are super loud and unique. For most people, there's probably only so much room in their rotation for standout pieces like that. I know that's the case for me, and that's why I tend to avoid louder pieces. You wear them once or twice, and then you just stop because they start to make all your outfits look the same. One other observation is that I started to see cheap high street stores starting to make replica 90s tops. And honestly, they did quite a good job. But there's no quicker way to kill a trend than to make it a bargain price and see every other person wearing it. Perhaps other people felt the same way, and that's why this trend just kind of fell off. New Balance. The next trend that took a tumble in 2023 is just New Balance in general. This is a pretty obvious one, to be honest, but it is worth mentioning. New Balance always was and always will be a popular brand amongst sneakerheads, especially those looking for quality. My 991s are still some of my favourite sneakers and I wear them all the time. But when the 550s landed in collaboration with Aimé Leon Dore, the brand went crazy, and that hype lasted quite a while. The 550s were of course the most popular model at the time, but it also spread interest from the general public into the rest of the New Balance line. But the huge popularity of the 550s is kind of what killed them in the end. Like with so many trends, the fashion scene became totally oversaturated with 550s. Every other outfit you were seeing had 550s in them, and I guess people just started to get tired of seeing them. And now that the 550 hype has died down in 2023, it's definitely affecting the rest of the New Balance line. Don't get me wrong, their collaborations are still gonna sell out, and I'm sure they're having no problems with their general sales. But in 2022, you'd be seeing New Balance socks, caps, shirts, trousers in every fit. Now in 2023, you just don't see the brand quite as much. Crossbody bags. The next one is something I never incorporated into my outfits, but I saw a lot of people wearing them in 2022, and it's crossbody bags. I think I already talked about these in a video earlier this year, but I've just never been a fan of them. In the UK especially, it has a very dealer type vibe, if you get my meaning. Or at the very least, just a chavvy, tacky vibe. It reminds me of Burberry, which suffered the same fate in the 90s and early 2000s. Despite being a luxury brand, you'd have all these kids wearing Burberry pieces, but not in a nice way. And it just kind of destroyed the brand image. It's the same with crossbody bags. You're seeing every other person walk around with a Prada or Gucci around their chest. When you see that many people wearing them, especially teenagers, and then you think of the cost, something doesn't add up. Either everyone has an unreal amount of disposable income, or they're fakes. Add to the fact that these tiny bags have very little function, perhaps being able to fit just a mobile phone, it just doesn't help with their desirability. As a consequence, this trend was very short-lived, and I just don't see many people wearing them in 2023 anymore. If there's one thing to take from this video, it's to not let trends dictate your style. Trends are so fickle, everything I've talked about in today's video will probably be back in 1 or 2 years' time. And these days we all live in fashion silos anyway. There's probably a bunch of people who would totally disagree with all of my observations. If you like something, then please just wear it and take these videos as entertainment. As I said, I just find it fascinating to observe and comment on the ever-changing fashion landscape. Hopefully you've enjoyed me rambling on about it. Thank you very much for watching, and have a Merry Christmas or 25th of December, whatever you do or do not celebrate. See you next time. Ta-ra.